All right, getting ready for a ground lighting officer interview, huh? That's awesome. It's a cool mix of technical know-how and making sure airports are safe, a big responsibility. And guess what? We've got your RoleCatcher info right here. The career guide, interview guide, and even their platform overview. We're like your personal interview prep team.
Yeah, it's a fascinating role. A lot of people think it's just changing light bulbs, but it's so much more. It's about being that kind of behind the scenes hero who keeps those runways lit and planes moving safely day and night.
Absolutely. We're going to tackle those tough interview questions, give you some career insights, and even show you how RoleCatcher's AI can help you polish your answers. How about we start with a classic? Tell us about your experience working with ground lighting systems. Seems like it always pops up first.
It does, yeah. This is your chance to really grab their attention. Don't just list off job titles. Zoom in on specific projects where you made a real difference. Like, did you ever run into any tricky wiring situations, or maybe you led the installation of a whole new lighting system? Think about the challenges you overcame and what you learned from them.
So instead of saying, I was an electrician for 5 years, you could say something like, while working on the runway lighting overhaul at a regional airport, I found a potential wiring issue that could really delay things. I dug into those schematics, figured out a cost-effective workaround, and we actually ended up finishing ahead of schedule.
Exactly. That shows you're a proactive problem solver, someone who's not afraid to jump in and get things done. Interviewers are also going to want to know about safety, right? It's paramount in aviation. So be ready for something like, describe your experience with safety protocols and procedures when it comes to ground lighting maintenance.
For sure. This is where you emphasize that safety is like non-negotiable for you. What certifications do you have? Which protocols are like your Bible? Think about risk assessments, lockout procedures, working at heights, all those crucial things.
It's not just about listing them, though, is it? It's about showing that safety is ingrained in how you work. You could say something like, before I even start any maintenance, I always do a thorough risk assessment, and I'm super careful about following lockout procedures to make sure everything's isolated. And when I'm working up high, I double check my harness and safety lines every single time, no exceptions.
That definitely paints a picture of your safety-first mindset. And speaking of pictures, interviewers love a good story, especially when it comes to communication. So how would you handle a question like, how do you handle communication issues with other airport staff about ground lighting?
Ah, communication. This is where you show you can navigate those tricky interpersonal situations. Think about a time when, say, a miscommunication with air traffic control or a disagreement with the maintenance crew could have caused a major problem. How did you use clear communication to save the day?
Okay, let's say there was a mix-up about when a runway was closing for repairs. I noticed a potential safety issue and got in touch with air traffic control right away to explain the situation. We worked together to find a solution that minimized any disruption and kept flights safe.
That's a great example. It shows you think on your feet and you're dedicated to safety, even when things get challenging. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and tackle a question that really lets you show off your technical skills. How about describe a time when you had to troubleshoot a complex ground lighting issue?
Ooh, this is where your inner detective comes out.
Exactly. Pick a scenario that really put your skills to the test. Maybe a sudden power outage during a crazy thunderstorm or a wiring problem that had everyone stumped. Don't just tell them what you did. Walk them through your thought process step by step. Like, what were the symptoms? What tests did you run? How did you finally figure out what was wrong?
It's like those crime shows, right? You're piecing together clues, but instead of catching a criminal, you're tracking down a faulty circuit.
Precisely. And by explaining your reasoning, you're showing them your technical expertise and analytical skills. Now, even if you haven't officially been a manager, be ready to talk about leadership. They might ask, can you tell us about your experience managing a team of ground lighting technicians?
Yeah, even in informal settings, there are always opportunities to lead. Have you ever mentored someone, led a project, or taken the initiative to improve something? Think about times when you stepped up and made a positive impact.
Absolutely. You could talk about training a new technician on the airport's lighting control system. Or maybe you noticed a problem with a certain type of light fixture and took the lead in finding a better solution. Those are great examples.
Speaking of improvements, interviewers often want to know about your efficiency skills. How would you answer? Can you describe a project where you led efforts to make ground lighting maintenance more efficient?
This is your chance to highlight your ability to spot areas for improvement and implement change effectively. Maybe you streamlined a process, introduced a new tool, or came up with a creative solution to a recurring problem. Even small things count.
Like, maybe I noticed we were wasting a lot of time going back and forth to the maintenance shed for supplies. So I suggested we create mobile toolkits so we have everything we needed right there during inspections. A small change, but it made a big difference.
Perfect example. It shows initiative and that you're always looking for practical solutions. Now, let's talk about financial responsibility. They might ask something like, can you explain your experience with budgeting and financial management, specifically related to ground lighting maintenance?
Yeah, even if you haven't handled huge budgets, he can still show you understand the financial side of things. Talk about tracking expenses, finding cost-effective solutions, or prioritizing maintenance tasks based on urgency and budget constraints.
Exactly. Instead of just replacing every light on a taxiway, maybe you proposed a phased approach, focusing on the most important areas first and spreading the cost out over time. It shows you're thinking strategically and making smart decisions.
Now, before we move on to part two, let's hit one more question that often comes up. Interviewers want to know you can handle big projects, so be ready for something like, can you explain your experience with project management, particularly in ground lighting installation or repair?
Here's where you highlight those project management skills. Think of a major installation or repair project where you had a key role. How did you plan, organize, delegate tasks, manage those timelines, and make sure the project stayed on track and within budget?
So I could talk about that time I was in charge of putting in new LED lights on a runway. I'd explain how I worked with different teams, the electricians, construction crews, air traffic control to minimize disruptions to the airport while keeping the project moving forward.
Exactly. It shows you can handle multiple things at once, collaborate effectively, and deliver results even in a busy airport environment. Okay, so we've gone over some of those tough questions you might get. Now, let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture, your career as a ground lighting officer. What are the different paths you could take, and how can you stay ahead of the game in such a fast-paced industry?
Yeah, the RoleCatcher Career Guide actually talks about some really interesting growth potential for ground lighting officers. It's not just a job. It's a career path with opportunities to move up.
Right. This isn't a dead end. As you get more experience and become more of an expert, you could move up to senior ground lighting officer, lighting systems manager, or even airport facilities manager. And, with the aviation industry constantly changing, the demand for people with these skills is only going to grow.
So what can someone who wants to be a ground lighting officer do to really stand out from the crowd?
I think lifelong learning is super important. Technology in this field is always evolving, right? Think about it. We're moving towards things like smart lighting systems, LEDs, and using renewable energy sources. To really succeed, you've got to stay on top of those trends.
The career guide specifically suggests getting certified in specialized areas, going to industry events, and just keeping up with new technologies. What are some specific certifications that our listener might want to look into?
That's a good question. The traditional electrical certifications are definitely important, but focusing on newer areas like smart lighting control systems or LED technology could give you a real advantage. Look for certifications that align with where the industry is headed. Organizations like the Illuminating Engineering Society, IES, or the International Association of Lighting Designers, IAT, are good places to start your research.
And going to those industry events and conferences is also a great way to network, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Events like Inter-Airport Europe or the Airport Show are amazing opportunities to meet other professionals, learn about the latest technology, and just stay ahead of the curve. It's like an investment in your career.
Speaking of investments, let's talk about how RoleCatcher can help you get ready for those interviews. One of their coolest features is the AI-powered feedback system, right?
It is, yeah. It's not just about practicing your answers, it's about getting feedback that helps you improve how you deliver those answers and what you say. RoleCatcher's AI looks at your responses, gives you insights on your pace, how clearly you're speaking, and even if you're using the right keywords that employers are looking for.
So it's like having a personal interview coach who can zero in on what you need to work on. Now, going back to those interview questions, how can RoleCatcher help our listener make their answers really stand out?
One of the best tools they have is the CV Resume Builder. It looks at job descriptions, figures out what skills you might be missing, and then helps you tailor your application to highlight the most relevant experience and qualifications.
So you're not just using some generic resume, you're creating a targeted document that speaks directly to what they're looking for. That's awesome.
Exactly. And remember, even if you haven't had a formal management role, you can still show those leadership qualities. Think about times when you've mentored a colleague, led a project, or taken charge to improve something. RoleCatcher's AI can help you explain those experiences in a way that shows your potential to lead.
And it's important to research the specific airport and position you're applying for too, right?
Oh, for sure. If you understand their current projects, their challenges, and their plans for the future, you can tailor your answers and show them you've done your homework. Like if the airport is really into sustainability, you could talk about your knowledge of LED technology or your experience with energy efficient lighting systems.
It's about connecting the dots and showing them you're not just interested in any job, you're interested in contributing to their specific goals.
Yeah. And when you're answering those technical questions, don't just give them the solution. Explain how you got there. How did you approach the problem? What tools and techniques did you use? That shows off your analytical skills and your ability to think critically.
Right. It's about showing off your problem-solving skills. Okay, we've talked about interview questions, career insights, and how RoleCatcher's AI can help. What's one key takeaway our listeners should remember as they get ready for their ground lighting officer interview?
I'd say preparation is key. Use all the resources we've talked about, tailor your answers to the specific job, and practice, practice, practice. Confidence comes from being prepared.
And don't forget to be enthusiastic. Interviewers love candidates who are passionate about the work. Now, before we go to part 3, let's touch on technology and how it's changing the aviation industry.
Technology is evolving so quickly, and it's having a huge impact on airport lighting. We're seeing a shift towards smart lighting systems that can automatically change brightness depending on the weather and even communicate with aircraft.
That's wild. What other advancements are shaping the future of ground lighting officers? There's a big focus on energy efficiency and sustainability these days, with airports switching to LEDs and exploring things like solar power. The ground lighting officer of the future will need to know all about these things to make sure airports are running efficiently and responsibly.
So it's not just about maintaining what's already there. It's about embracing new technology and shaping the future of airport lighting.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing to think how much technology is changing airport lighting. Smart systems, energy efficiency, it's like a whole different world out there.
Right, and it's not just the tech itself. It's the skills and knowledge that ground lighting officers are going to need to keep up and really thrive in this changing environment.
So what can someone who wants to be a ground lighting officer do to get ready for this high-tech future?
Well, they need to embrace this idea of always learning, Be curious about new technology, go to industry conferences, connect with other people in the field. Those are all great ways to stay ahead of the curve. The aviation industry is always moving, so those who can adapt and learn will have the best careers. And the RoleCatcher Career Guide really emphasizes networking as a way to find opportunities you might not even know are out there. What are some good ways to build a network in this field?
Joining professional organizations is a good start, like the Illuminating Engineering Society, IES, or the International Association of Lighting Designers, IALD. They're great for meeting other professionals, getting access to resources, and staying up to date on industry trends.
And let's not forget about online platforms like LinkedIn. It's such a powerful tool for connecting with people in aviation and showing off what you know.
Oh, for sure. Create a strong LinkedIn profile, join conversations, connect with people who work at airports you're interested in. It can really open doors you might not expect.
Now let's bring it back to RoleCatcher. How can their AI platform help our listener navigate this changing landscape and set themselves up for success?
Well, RoleCatcher can actually help you identify those emerging skills and trends that are becoming important for ground lighting officers. It looks at job descriptions and industry data to pinpoint the specific skills and certifications that are in high demand.
So it's like having a personalized career advisor who can help you plan out your professional development and make sure you're learning the right stuff for the future.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher can even connect you with companies who are looking for people with your skills. It's like a shortcut to finding that dream job.
Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with one final thought. Technology is definitely changing the role of a ground lighting officer, but at the end of the day, this job is all about safety, precision, and keeping airports running smoothly.
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technology, but those fundamental principles are what make this role so important. It takes a special combination of technical expertise, problem-solving skills, and a commitment to safety to really excel.
And as you step into this role, remember you're not just maintaining lights. You're playing a critical part in keeping our skies safe and connecting the world. It's a challenging and rewarding career, and we're confident that you'll light the way with your skills and dedication. Good luck with your interview and keep shining.